What's going on, readers and bookworms? Welcome to the library. It is I, the Spoken Shelf, and today we're going to be reviewing our first book here on the channel. It is going to be Between Two Fires by Chris Buehlman. This is a really cool, interesting fantasy, dark fantasy book that I just read here within the last month, and it's definitely something that I think you guys should pick up at your local Barnes & Noble, mom and pop stores, wherever you buy your books, or even check out Audible. Audible, please sponsor. Please. Anywho, moving on. This is a really awesome book, and I'm going to be diving into it. So, fasten your seatbelts, guys, and let's go in. The first thing that I definitely have to do is setting the scene for you guys. So where I should say, is this book taking place? This is taking place during the mid-1300s, during the Black Plague. And if you guys didn't know anything about the Black Plague, it was called also the Black Death, and it devastated Europe in between 1347 and 1351, and it killed a lot of people. I mean, imagine COVID, we all remember COVID, but on steroids, and it was getting rid of tons and tons of people. I believe, according to one of my sources here that I've been reading up on about this, is that just in England alone there were 1,000 villages that were completely wiped out by the end of all this. So just to kind of put that into perspective, and it spread all over from Asia all the way into all parts of Europe, and it devastated everywhere that it touched. And so that's kind of the area where we're in right now. This is going to be set in Normandy, France, during that time period, a time period where a lot of people thought that this was God's revenge. There are many people during this time that thought that God had abandoned them, and that's kind of like this idea in this book here. So this is set in medieval times in an alternative universe where God has indeed turned his face away from man, and demons are running amok, and there are a group of characters that come into this world here that you get to get involved with. That some are complete anti-heroes, someone that you root for and maybe you shouldn't root for, and then there's someone who is an absolute saint who somehow knows more than what she does. I don't want to go into too much of it because I don't want to spoil it, but just to kind of set the scene there for you there. So that's where we're at. We are in Europe, 1300s, Black Plague. Now that I've set that scene here for you, I kind of want to expand on that just a little bit more and just kind of point this out to you. If you are not into horror in any sort of way, this is a horror type book. It has a horror element to it. It's not kind of off to the side. It's not a dark fantasy with some unsettling moments. No. There's a lot of dark, twisted stuff that's in here. It's very graphic, so that is not your cup of tea. You might not want to read this, but if you enjoy that kind of reading, you'll definitely enjoy this. Buehlman, who is the author of this book, he does not rely on just a shock value alone. He uses his words brilliantly to incorporate imagery and graphic scenes that sometimes are just, to be frankly, just deeply uncomfortable, but it sets the tone right for the scene and it draws you in. It's like when you're watching a horror film and you can't stop watching, but he does that with words. It's very, very well written. And so to kind of set the scene a little bit more with the demons that are in this world, they don't just want to kill people, they want to corrupt them, unravel them. They are interested in basically taking advantage of, torturing, and killing as many humans as possible. And this is throughout the whole series of the book. So if that kind of thing isn't your cup of tea, totally understandable. No hate whatsoever on that. But that is something to be expected with this book. It is dark horror fantasy for a reason. So I wanted to make sure you guys knew what you'd be getting into when you would pick up this book if you decided to do that. The next thing I'm going to talk about is not necessarily the story itself, because I don't want to do any sort of spoilers. I want you guys to be able to pick these books up and read them. I just want to talk about what I liked about the book, what I didn't like about the book, and why I think it's worth reading. So let's talk about it. First off, the one thing I love is the writing. Mr. Chris Buehlman here, he has considerable skill. You can see it the way he writes. It's very descriptive, very graphic in how he describes his scenes. You can definitely tell that he has a wonderful talent for writing in the dark fantasy and horror genre. Um, every sentence seems to have weight. Things are not, overly ornamentated, and what I mean by that is he doesn't use a whole lot of fluffy words usually all the time, but everything feels deliberately paced and precise, which you love to see in books that you read. You can definitely tell the difference between a young author type writing skill and someone who's done it for a little bit longer, has a little more experience, a few more books under their belt. So you see how much skill that person has in that genre. I would also say that this gift for dialogue is also something that he does really, really well. You can sense the humanity in his characters. They don't always speak in modern talk, which is good. I love that for immersion's sake. You don't have someone using terminology from 2026 here. This is the way people talk during that time frame, which is very refreshing for the time. I can't tell you how many times I've read a book and I've thought, no character would say this in this world. Why is this even here? So that's very refreshing. And then also just the other thing too is the way this story progresses. There are moments where you are there side by side with the characters, and then you're in a vision or in a separate place from them, and it doesn't feel overwhelming. The story, it feels like it flows very naturally, even though there is, I wanted to say, some of these Tolkien type moments where people are just walking and then all of a sudden stuff happens. But it's not overdone. You're not walking and walking forever and ever. It's good to read this book slowly. And it's not because it's difficult, it's because it's enjoyable to read. And the story progresses very, very well, and I couldn't get enough of it. I couldn't stop reading it, even though I'm not usually a horror fan myself. I don't have many horror books, but this kept me intrigued because the story kept me rooted there, and I enjoyed these characters. I enjoyed seeing what they struggled with on a day-to-day basis, how they pushed through it, and then also how things worked out in the end. There was a kind of a vindication for the anti-hero, which I did not see coming at the very end. It was kind of like, oh man, that's beautiful, man. So just fantastic work by Chris Buehlman with the writing, the characters, and flow of the book. And so what did I not like? Well, there's a couple things I wanted to go over here before I give a final verdict on this, because it's only right that I give you the pros and the cons with this. First off, the commitment, like I said, to the writing that Buehlman does is fantastic. It's one of his great strengths, but there are moments, scattered moments. Thankfully, they are brief because this is not my cup of tea. Again, this is my opinion, where there are more crude moments, I should say, that I think is necessary in the books. Certain scenes leading to explicit content in a way that felt like it was too much, or just for, I don't know, shock value. I mean, maybe that's not the right word for it, but I just don't need to see that. I don't want to imagine that, and I don't want to read that in my books. I'm kind of a purist with that. I don't like seeing smut in my books, and there were a few moments in that. They were small, they were brief, but they left a bad taste in my mouth for those small moments in time in the book, but it didn't ruin the book for me. I want to say that. Buehlman tries to, set the reader's imagination to fill the space, and I would assume that's why he wrote it in that style. And for the most part of the book, that works for him, because I enjoy that part of the book when he is writing things in and being descriptive and telling us about how the story and how it's progressing with characters. But when we get into some of these more explicit moments, it kind of is a bummer for me. But it doesn't derail the novel entirely. Like I said, those moments are brief. The larger work more or less is recovered because it's only temporary. Um, so if you are someone who prefers, things to be implied rather than displayed, there might be some moments where you may not like these instances in the book like I did, but if that doesn't really bother you, you're still going to enjoy the book regardless for that. But that was my major concern with it, is just having a little too much explicitness in the scenes. And so what is the final verdict on all of this now that I've kind of set the scene, the hook for you, the pros and cons? Well, Between Two Fires is, without qualification, one of the finest works of dark fiction I have encountered. It's a rare book that operates simultaneously as a visceral horror, historical fiction, which I thoroughly enjoy because I have a history degree, theological aspects to it, which I enjoy, and there's genuine human drama that is in this book, and it doesn't sacrifice any of those things for one over the other. It's very well balanced. Buehlman trusts us as the reader. He doesn't soften the darkness to make it suitable. He is out there when he writes. He does not resolve the tension to make it comfortable. He doesn't offer us, any easy and tidied up conclusions. What he really offers the readers is something more valuable. An honest portrait of broken people choosing at great cost to be more than their worst moments in their lives. They choose to be better, regardless of how far they have fallen. So, who is this book for? This is for readers who want their fantasy to have genuine weight. If you're not afraid of horror, that means something. So that way it's your cup of tea. Someone who can sit inside a little bit of discomfort in a topic that may be hard to read or hard to imagine, and find humanity on the other side of it. This is not always an easy read, and it's not meant to be. But it's worth it because you see the humanity in these characters. I know I've said that quite a bit in this review, but I can't state that enough. You can see that. You can see a lot of problems going on today in these people, and how they strive to still do better despite their failings. And it's a wonderful thing to see. So, thank you everyone for listening to this review. My name is The Spoken Shelf. This has been a wonderful book review of Between Two Fires by Chris Buehlman. You guys have a fantastic day, and keep reading.